Howdy y'all. Today we'll be making a shelf out of this pine butcher block looking material. We're going to put it together tongue and groove style. Let's get to it. Alrighty, so with this pine butcher block looking material, I'll be making a set of shelves, standing shelves for my best friend's mama, and specs will be roughly these. Should be about 3 foot tall, about 4 foot long. It should be about a foot deep, and the bottom shelf should be about 4 inches off the ground. And I say about because we're going to be doing tongue groove style, and also this material, you can see in some of the spots it has some putty in it, and it looks like it's wood on spots like this. We're getting sunshine, but it is actually putty. I've never used this material before. It's interesting, saw it at Lowe's, thought it might be good for this project. It supposedly is a good staining base. So that's what the label said, so we're gonna go and give it a try. Now, out of this, we also will be trying to use no hardware, so no screws, no nails. I would like to do this just a simple fit up and wood glue. I'm gonna try and do tongue and groove for both shelves. The groove will be in the standing pieces. So we have our specs here, we have our general layout here. So we're gonna have it brought down for the first top shelf. So the top shelf there is gonna be brought down a little bit. Reason being, it's hard to do a tongue and groove right on the top. So I'm gonna bring it down maybe an inch, just depends on if there's any knots that I don't wanna deal with. We'll bring it down just a little bit. And then of course the bottom one will be about 4 inches off the ground. And our joint will look like this. So this is our standing piece right here and our horizontal piece right here. It's gonna be tongue and groove. And we have about 3/4 inch material. I was hoping for 1 inch, but the material I seen just wasn't good enough. Went to both Home Depot and Lowe's. This was the best looking thing at Lowe's I could find. And I didn't see anything at Home Depot, the Home Depots around here that I care for, that would look good for this particular project. So I went with this. So we got 3/4 inch material. I'm gonna go about halfway in on the groove. So we're gonna go about 3/8 in. So 3/8 in here, but we're gonna be taking off on the top and bottom of the shelves. We'll be taking 3/16 off. So that way it will be 3/8 inch total gone from the 3/4 to fit into the groove that will be in the vertical pieces. So let's go get to the layout and then we'll go and get sawing things up. Let's get to it. So what I'm gonna do before just start laying out on my 3 boards is I wanna check which boards and which sides would work out best for each piece. So we're gonna have a 3 foot tall piece on each side and then 2 4 foot long pieces. Now, there are some spots that are like this one where it has the putty in it. I'd rather not have that in the middle of the shelf where it's facing up for my best friend or mama. I just would rather it look neater, so I'd rather have this side. Everything looks nicer over here. There's just a couple pieces that have putty, but they're not as noticeable. It looks more like wood there. Whereas on this side, there's some spots that have no putty at all, where it's kind of open, a little jagged, and then there's spots with a good amount of putty. So this is something I'd want probably for a shelf and on the bottom side. So this side would be top on the shelves, but that's the first piece. There could be 2 better pieces. So just looking over it, I already did this in the store, but kind of going over what I do and why I do it. Now, this piece may be hard from a distance, but this spot right here is all filled in with putty. Same with this whole spot. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to tear it up. It's kind of a weaker putty. Found that out later because I wasn't trying to break nothing in the store. So this would definitely be a bottom side, but also it looks not so hot up here. Now, this side on both sides has looked fairly good. Just some smaller putty spots. So a little putty there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Now, these were the best 3 boards in the stack at the Lowe's I was at. And get it. 3 foot is right here, and 4 foot is right here. So if I were to have this as a shelf, I could still cut off this area, and it wouldn't be on my shelf. So it's just looking over each spot. Some folks just start cutting, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just like everything to look as good as possible when I'm doing this. Big old putty spot right there. So this would probably be on the inside of the vertical pieces. And this one looks like one of my other shelf pieces. This side looks pretty darn good. So does this side. Look at the back here. We got some putty spots. So this would be the bottom of a shelf. But one thing that has a little bit of an issue right here is this big spot. So let's double check where our 3 foot mark is. And it misses it. The reason I want to miss that for a 3 foot mark, because if I'm having this as an end, and just say the saw cuts right through it, it could really mess up the putty. It could chuck it out as a huge chunk, and it could really mess up the knot that it's filling in. So luckily, looks like the putty misses our 3 foot mark, and these are 6 foot boards. So it'll be slightly less than 3 foot tall because of the width of the blade that I'll be using. Other than that, it will be close enough. And this will be on inside. And let's look at this side again. And this side will be outside. So cut this in half. This will be on the inside, this side outside. This side will be outside, this side will be inside. So it'll be flipped, so the best sides are on the outside, and anything on the inside will be shown less. Now, I'm not using a planer to plane these. I will sand these later, but if they have a little bit of warping to them, I don't want to get it any thinner because of the tongue and groove. I want as much thickness as I can get to put the groove into and to have a thick enough tongue to go in there, because there will be a decent amount of weight on here. So my reasoning for not planing is that, but also I don't know what the putty will do to my planer. It is a little gunky. One thing planing would be good for this project is make sure the boards aren't warped, because if I'm trying to do a tongue and groove all the way across, then if the board's a little bit warped, it'll be hard or sometimes impossible to do that fit up. One thing I'll be doing is, if it doesn't fit up properly, because I'm not trying to thin down, I want as much structural integrity as possible, I will be, if we have this as our leg pieces, and just say our horizontal pieces are a little bit warped and it's not a complete straight line, what I'll do is I'll take my leg pieces and I'll cut it to maybe a 2 or 3 inch strip for each leg, so that way it can give a little bit to the warped horizontal pieces. I'm not saying they're warped, they may be slightly. I tried to get the straightest pieces I could get. That's why I chose these. These were the straightest, good looking boards out of any of the woods I could find, out of Home Depot, Lowe's, and I went to several of them. These were the best I could find for this type of project. So if there's a little bit of warping, we will cut down our vertical pieces to strips about this long, give or take, whatever looks best, but will still hold a decent amount of weight. So after we get our layout done, we'll go get to cutting. Right here, I'm laying out which side is going to be the top side or the inside for all the pieces. And I'm also laying out where my cuts will be and also accounting for the width of the blade. After all the layout is done, I will make my initial cuts to get to the length of all the pieces I will want, and then I'll be moving further after that. all of my pieces cut to length, I'll be making the groove cuts in the vertical pieces, and then I'll move on to the tongue cuts for all the shelf pieces. So here I'm just making the initial cut. I will do this for both legs or vertical pieces, as we can see here, and then I'll do 2 more cuts by moving the fence over on the table saw, and then that will give us our width for our groove. So doing this on the other leg, and it'll be in the exact same spot. Got a nice single groove there. I'll be doing 2 more cuts on each in almost the same spot, but slightly over, so that way I have the width of the groove that I would want for my fit up. This cut can be done multiple ways. I did it to where it's the outside edges first, and I'll get that final piece out in the third cut. Depending on how wide a cut it is, it makes the difference on how many times you'll have to go across the blade. If it were wider, I could just leave it like this and use a chisel to bring it out, or if I had a bunch of different cuts and I had thicknesses about this wide of wood that still needs to be taken out, I could use a chisel. But I figured if I just move the blade halfway between my first cut and my third cut, I'm going to be golden, and I just run it through and I don't have to worry about using a chisel or anything. And now we have our groove cut. That will be where the tongue fits in for the top shelf. So I'm going to do this for the other pieces, and then we'll be getting on to the tongue cuts. Here I'm laying out the tongue cuts, so I'll be marking on each side where it'll be and getting everything set up, and then I'll just be able to do the ends. It won't really be too much in moving the fence after that. It'll just be the ends, move it over, and it'll be almost the same process as doing the groove cuts. And then I'll go back to the center and take out that final piece. So just going to lay it out on both our shelves, and then we're going to get cutting. Here I'm just finishing up the first part of the tongue cut. I'll have 2 more cuts to do for a total of 3 for the tongue on each piece, or on each side of each piece. I'm going to move the other shelf over so I can do a mock fit up of this first cut with the groove. And it was a bit big, which was perfect. That's what I was aiming for. I'd rather sand it down and be able to get it more snug than it be a little bit loose. So everything was perfect. So I'm going to keep moving the fence over once I do the other end. And we'll keep the cuts moving over. So a total of 2 more cuts on each side to get it to where it'll fit in that groove properly. So let's get going to it. Now all of the cuts are done for both the grooves and the tongues. So I'll be using a file to get some of the rough pieces off. There will be a couple little grooves on both the tongue and the groove itself that I wanted to just smooth out a little bit. That can be done with the file. And I'll be working more with sandpaper to get it a little bit thinner tongues and a little bit wider grooves, just so it fits nice and snug. Again, I would rather have it a little bit too tight to start off with and spend extra time filing it down than be way too loose and have a very loose joint. There was one part that was going to be a little extra loose, but the rest of it was going to be nice and tight, which is just fine by me. I'm very happy with that. So we're just going to get some rough spots filed down and sanded. They'll be fitting up more, and that'll be coming up in the next video. So hope you all enjoyed the part 1. We'll be having part 2 coming out soon, and hopefully be within a couple days for y'all. If y'all enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like, share it, go ahead and comment. I'm looking forward to y'all's comments. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be seeing all the videos coming up in the future, including part 2. And you'll be able to see all this getting put together, glued together, sanded, and then delivered. So, gonna be enjoying all this with all y'all. See y'all in the next video.